What up is Marcus Dynasty with ads, and I'm going to be going against a fantasy channel that had 20,000 views that I think is absolutely wrong and incorrect. They were talking about the Dynasty quarterbacks, and they were ranking them. Now, they have 20,000 views. They were one of the best redraft channels. In fact, a redraft channel that I have been watching for the last couple of years. But their Dynasty takes are absolutely horrible in my opinion. Let me know if you think you're with me or with the other channel. That's perfectly okay. I'm okay taking my lumps here. But their order of their players would be Lance, Mack, Fields, Zach Wilson, and then Trevor Lawrence. That was their order of Dynasty from best to worst. And just listening to them, their reasonings, I just want to rip my hair out. But if you're new to the channel, we have a DeAndre Swift signed jersey. All you have to do is be a subscriber for a chance to win. When we hit 2K, we're going to be giving it away to one of you guys. Now let's get back into it. Now, the thing I think I rate me the most is they had Trevor Lawrence, 6'6", 213 pounds, number 23 quarterback, a quarterback that I think can only improve with his weapons. His coaching staff directly will be a huge improvement. And he's going to have his boy Travis Etienne that's going to come back Trevor Lawrence's sophomore year into his NFL career. All of those things, and you are going to say that Trevor Lawrence is 5 out of 5 if we're redrafting quarterbacks? You might as well just say that you hate the guy. Trevor Lawrence is still a top 12 quarterback in Dynasty Fantasy Football. For me, he's my number one if we were to redraft the quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence is still the number one quarterback that I would be taking in this if I was redrafting the 2021 class. Let's look at the last couple games. He had 10, 11, 10, 18 points. It's not the greatest. Being 23rd overall, that does hurt. I mean, he was somebody that started every single game, but he did have 3,641 yards. He had 12 touchdowns, which is, you could say, horrible. for being part of 17 games and having 12 touchdowns, I can't imagine him not doubling that total. And he had 17 interceptions, which was super rare for Trevor Lawrence, but we know his talent. I think there's some glimpses here that we're missing. 334 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. His rushing is there. It is definitely, with 73 attempts, which is a really good statistic for a quarterback. If you're getting 5-6 rush attempts along with good passing, which we believe, I would say 90% of people should believe that Trevor Lawrence, yes, had a bad year, but should improve immensely. The NFL, going from college where you are the cream of the crop with weapons around him, he had T. Higgins, he had Justin Ross, he had Travis Etienne, he had all these different players, and then you go to the Jaguars, who has DJ Chark, who's gone immediately, and then you have Marvin Jones, Laquan Treadwell, he was actually trying to make relevant, and I'm a Vikings fan. I know Laquan Treadwell. If that's your number one wide receiver, and you had Jamal Agnew, who's listed as a safety on Sleeper for a while, you're going to have some better weapons here coming up. And you're going to have Travis Etienne. I know James Robinson, losing him is definitely going to be a little bit of a hurt. But again, that means they might have to pass it more. I could see them modeling I was going to say Los Angeles Chargers, but I could see them modeling the Chargers offense. Eckler being this Travis Etienne role, maybe an Eckler light. And then they could easily draft another wide receiver in this 2022 class, and they could really make some huge improvements in this offense. So Trevor Lawrence is not by far, I would say, but he is my number one, without a doubt, in my opinion. Number two, and it hasn't really changed since the beginning, previous to the season when they had the draft, if I can even talk. It's Justin Fields. He's 22, again, 6'3", 228 pounds. They liked him as well, but they, again, were saying, well, if you had Justin Fields, we trade him for Trevor Lawrence. If they had Trevor Lawrence, they'd trade for Justin Fields. I think that's a huge mistake. Justin Fields had some huge concerns, passing-wise. He did have some good games in there, but look at this kind of roller coaster. 7, 14, 1. One's not so good. 19, 2, 19, 14. Like, these games are all over the place when it comes to fantasy football-wise. Again, we like the rushing. When we talk about Justin Fields, I think one of his biggest attributes were his legs. I think that was a huge thing. 72 attempts, 420 yards, 2 touchdowns. It just 7 touchdowns, 10 picks passing wise in his 12 games, and only 1,870 yards. So really, 31st QB off or ranking wise after the season. Justin Fields, I think, is still good. All these quarterbacks are buy lows in my opinion. I'd rather have all these quarterbacks, and I think that there's going to be some chances to get them in this offseason. I'd rather have every single one of these quarterbacks over the 2022 quarterback class. Every single one, including number 5 of 5. I would rather have him over Malik Willis, over Matt Corral, over Kenny Pickett, over any of those quarterbacks. I would rather have every single one of these 5. And I think there is some definitely buy opportunities because you look at Lawrence's value, definitely down. According to this big channel, super down. Fields, there's some definitely concerns about Fields. I think actually he might be getting the most hype of the 5. Trey Lance didn't even play last year, so his value has definitely gone down, and we assume he's going to be the starter, but we don't know what his starting ability is going to be like still. There's still some concerns there. Mac Jones, I would say maybe he's also kind of in the Fields situation where I would still rather have him over the other quarterbacks in the 2022 class, but I still think there's a big concern that he might not have that rushing ability and not be a top 10 quarterback and be stuck into QB2 land. And Zach Wilson, who had this really up and down season as well, has Elijah Moore, has potentially Corey Davis for a little bit longer, and you have Michael Carter, so you have some weapons around him and a young offense that I think will definitely improve. But let's get into Trey Lance here. He is my number 3, 6'4", 224 pounds. He has now not played for 2 years. North Dakota State really didn't play, and then he didn't play his freshman year, we'll just say, or his rookie year. I don't know why I say freshman year, but rookie year at San Francisco. And he's my number 3 going into the season, and the biggest concern for me was that they are an offense. He was going to be in the Colin Kaepernick type of situation. That they were going to run, and then they were going to throw it do these little dump offs to Debo and Kittle. And I think Garoppolo did suffice into that offense. I think Trey Lance is still going to have this high potential, but we do have to, I think, damper some of those expectations because you saw Elijah Mitchell really good at running, and then you saw Debo Samuel really good at stealing goal line stuff. So Trey Lance could be into this Jalen Hurts-like category. I think that's what you might see out of him in the next 12 to 18 months. But Trey Lance also could be still that bust where we haven't seen him in 2 years. He comes out and maybe he is just not the efficient and good passer that there's definitely some concerns about his passing that we saw so much inconsistency at North Dakota State where he had really good games and then there's other throws that you're like, ugh. That's not an NFL throw, and North Dakota State has produced, like, Carson Wentz and everything, and you see Carson Wentz has had super bright moments, and he's had super bad moments. It just seems like some of these smaller colleges do produce really good quarterbacks, but some of them, you think they're going to be good, they have the upside, and then all of a sudden they just bottom out. All right, so Mac Jones is number 4, and the reason for that is he started all year, and you're like, wow, he actually had a really good rookie year. In fact, he was the best quarterback of the 5. And he honestly, if you told me who's going to be the best NFL quarterback, I would probably say still Trevor Lawrence, but I would say Mac Jones is really close to being up there with Trevor Lawrence. The difference is Trevor Lawrence will get you those rushing yards. He'll be the Justin Herbert, and Mac Jones will be the more of the statue of, he was 18th at QB. 18th, and he still produced every single game, and the biggest issue, again, with Mac Jones is his rushing ability. 44 attempts. He still had a lot of attempts. 129 yards and 0 touchdowns. It's what you're going to see out of Mac Jones. You're not going to see much rushing out of him. He had 22 touchdowns, 13 picks. He had 3,801 yards. I could see him go from 18 to 12 to 13. He's the Derek Carr. His name is Mac Jones. Mac Derek Carr Jones. That's what I'm going to call him because it's basically what he is. He's a quarterback he's going to be a solid NFL quarterback. That's why I call him Derek Carr, because Derek Carr is, I think, a decent quarterback. He's going to be Kirk Cousins. That is going to be the realm of what you're going to get. A little bit better Baker Mayfield. Do you want that in Dynasty? It's nice to have it as like a QB3, maybe a QB2 at times. But again, that's why I have tempered my expectations for Mac Jones. The one thing I will say, and why he's 4 over Zach Wilson, is because Mac Jones could have the opportunity of being that 5,000-yard passer if he has some really good weapons around him, which he doesn't currently. You could see in a couple of years, maybe 2 years, that he has this huge passing, because he's a really, really great passing pocket quarterback. And you could really see that he could have a Joe Burrow-esque season, a top 8-6 season once in a while if he really lights it on fire. This Matt Ryan, this Joe Burrow type season. Number 5, Zach Wilson. I still love that he has weapons around him. He has Elijah Moore for probably the next 3-4 years. I should say 4+ years potentially because of his rookie contract. You have Corey Davis, and he's still 22. There's no one in sight that's going to be touching his job. And so, again, 9 touchdowns, 11 picks in 13 games. Not the greatest, but 185 yards on 29 attempts, 4 touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns. He is a little bit more mobile. And so that's what kind of keeps him from over this, like, Davis Mills. And there's a huge gap off of Davis Mills and stuff. But I have Zach Wilson over the likes of Matt Corral and Kenny Pickett easily in Dynasty, because Zach Wilson, I believe, is a better thrower than those 2 quarterbacks. I honestly think that these 5 quarterbacks are better than the 2022 class. So if you have a late first and you can get one of these quarterbacks, it's easy. I mean, if you have a mid first, I'm taking one of these 5 quarterbacks. In fact, I might have to go into the Dynasty Dads and find out who has the 5 quarterbacks. And I think I have 111, like 108. I might have to see 108 and throw a little sugar on it and see if I can get one of these 5 guys. I don't think I can. Like, it's probably not going to happen. Especially Trevor Lawrence, because honestly, my biggest argument was, and I want to make sure that people understood this, is I think you have to listen to people that have understood Dynasty. Redraft channels that are turning into this Dynasty, they're like, ooh, I'm redraft first, but then I want to turn into this Dynasty because we were bored in the offseason. Well, that is where you get this basically incorrect information and information that will lead you down the wrong path. I think the redraft channels, there's some certain really good redraft channels that are amazing at redraft. They are pretty bad, borderline horrible on Dynasty content. And so there are some really good YouTubers. I'm not saying I'm the best by any means. In fact, I would probably honestly say I'm not the best. I'm still learning and I'm still growing as a Dynasty owner and as a channel myself. There are some really good YouTube channels that are 70, 80, 90% Dynasty fantasy football that have really, really good in-depth analysis, video, analytics on Dynasty football, and they understand the concepts, the values on Dynasty football. So make sure that you line up and find those types of channels. It is so, so important not to go down the wrong path. There's channels for certain reasons. So that's my personal opinion. Let me know what you think. All right, this is Marcus Dynasty Dads. Peace out. See you tomorrow.